All right, looking at our first bit of movement heavy stuff for quarter four, looking at this idea of locomotion. So locomotion is basically how do I get from here to there? The most used form of locomotion is walking. So you had an option this week to study walking and or to study some more complex versions of locomotion where your hands are on the ground and such. Most of you chose locomotion, and no blame there, or most of you chose walking. So the idea is, okay, this thing you do every day all the time, how much do you actually pay attention to it? And have you ever thought about, am I good at walking or could my walking be better? Right? Just some things to kind of consider. So I'll be showing you some things as well as going through the forms that you guys filled out just to show you your answers. So generally, right, just about 70% of you chose to look at walking, right? It wasn't any extra effort. It's something you do all the time. Again, the goal of asking you questions about it is to make this thing interesting, is to allow you to engage with it. Okay. So first thing I ask, and I'm very curious, I don't know if you will chat it or not, I'm curious if you answered these from what you thought you knew or you actually walked to see what your answers were, right? If anybody has a chat on that, I would love to hear your perspective. But the first thing I asked is, what direction do your toes point when walking? And almost 80% say straight ahead. Oh, there is a chat and there's a person. Okay, so I have a private person saying, I actually walked and looked at it to know, which is excellent. Again, it gives you a point of attention to the things you already do. So almost 80% have their toes straight ahead. Okay. Next is slightly to the side, which means out, and slightly inward. A lot of people call inward pigeon toe. So that would be, this would be in pigeon toe, this would be out. Then I asked, not many of you had one foot doing one thing and the other not. So this idea of an asymmetry, when I was growing up, my left foot rotated in and my right foot was straight. So I had this weird left foot pigeon toe. There's a very interesting story about it. I may share it with you one time. If you want me to share it with you next time, just give me a heads up. So I only had one that rotates in. So we have to understand that our body is not necessarily symmetrical, meaning that my left side doesn't act the same as my right side. Okay. If we consider that we write with a certain hand, right, that hand does more things and or does things differently than my left side, which I may not use as much as an example. Okay. I asked what part of your foot hits the ground first. Most of you said the heel. Second is bottom of the foot. 4 people said toes, which is a very interesting breakdown. So if I looked at this and if I showed you real quickly. All right. So in order for my bottom of my foot to hit the ground, I need to walk like this. What I call this is don't crease my shoes, right? Everybody that comes to PE and doesn't want to crease their shoes, they don't have a bend. This idea of rolling. When I'm walking, I ideally want to have this heel strike that rolls my body weight forward. And you'll notice it interacts with the back foot. So if I'm here, I'm going to go heel strike, roll my weight, this back leg pushes me, I come through and I land heel again. So if I were to just go back and forth a bit, this ability to weight shift, this doesn't require very much energy at all, right? But if every time I had to move, I pick up and put down, I lose that rolling weight shift. Particularly when I'll get us outward ducks, folks walking this way. Similarly, if going forward, my heel strikes first, Going backwards, I get the ball of my toes, but the ball of my foot to hit first. Right? So there's a mechanism to things. These feet that we have and kind of ignore, they do this pumping, which we know, but they also do this rotation. I can also spread the toes really wide. Right? So all this stuff we kind of take for granted. I will tell you this, that the best athletes out there, the fastest, the most reactive, they have excellent feet. And this is something that nobody really pays attention to. I don't know if people think feet are weird, but your feet are pretty great. They should be very, very mobile and reactive. It should not be treated like a piece of wood. You do want to use its mechanisms, okay? So part of your foot leaves the ground last, toes pushing you. Again, if you could think about more ball of foot than the toes, we don't necessarily, when we walk, want to be gripping the ground. We again want to be able to rock back and forth. Okay, the more open these toes are, the more I can use my foot. The more closed they are, the more I rely on my toes. My toes, and you can kind of tell if there's like janky things on your toes and stuff, like if you got weird blisters and stuff, that's where your pressure is, right? I've got this toe that's long and curved, right? That's the way I use it. That's the pressure. Similarly, if I look at the way my shoes wear, right? So I have these kind of doctored. I'll explain that doctoring probably in another, but you could tell by the wear on your shoe where you connect with the ground. It will give you information. If you have the instep worn away, that's the thing that you are gripping with and pressing. So if your instep is worn away, that means you must have a lot of this internal rotation into the ground. Okay, again, everything will give you information if you know where to look. Okay, then I asked about arms, right? This is just feet so far. I have to change it to this one so we don't see the weird purple. Okay, what do your arms do? Swing. I didn't try it. They balance me. Okay. Move side to side. Move to the rhythm of my legs, like my right arm will move in the same direction as my left leg. There is a coordination involved. Don't know. Keep them balanced and ahead of me. Stay by my side and slightly swing. Hang loosely. Often my hands are in my pockets, usually in my pockets. Arms basically not moving that much. More of it was my body. I also got a lot of my hands are on my cell phone. So if we start to look at the arms, so that one person really nailed it. They should be working with our legs. They should be part of this swinging process. Now, if I see people or runners, same thing running, they kind of do this side to side, then their feet are also shifting side to side. If my arms go side to side, right, and I'm trying to go forward, I am using a kind of inefficient pattern. If I'm trying to go forward, arms side to side isn't going to help me too much. I ideally want those arms to go in the direction in which I'm moving. Again, what works for walking works for running if you're trying to get faster. Okay. If I have my hands in my pockets or my hands locked down on a cell phone, they are not helping me at all. In fact, I'm losing that winding. This actually makes walking harder because my legs are doing everything. They don't have the help of my arms. Okay. I do see tons of kids like this. Again, also notice where your hands are pointed. Palms behind, and this is their walking. Their arms stay still, right? This tells me a lot about this person's shoulder and posture. Okay, again, they want to swing with the legs. Okay. All right. Then, talked about arms. They're attached to a rib cage. Most of you said they stay put. Some shift side to side. A few rotate. Now we got to think. If this is swinging and these are swinging, then ideally we want that rib cage to also swing in rotation. If my axis rotates, it becomes even easier. How, quote unquote, should my axis rotate for ease? Basically, I bring everything to the midline. So if my left foot is forward, I want to rotate into it. Rotate into it, rotate into it. That midline axis, again, it makes walking this gliding, effortless thing. If they stay put, then I actually have to move my arms, right? I have to do work on other than let the system work for me. Similarly, right? If I get this kind of side-to-side pattern, sometimes you see folks with bad hips or bad backs, they end up walking this way, side to side, because they can't bring their leg through, right? So there's a reason for everything. I can also, hands in pockets again, I can go up to down. That's my ribs trying to lift me with each step. Trying to lift with the ribs or push with the feet. Again, tons and tons of combinations, tons of information. If I go side to side, right, it's that same. I'm shifting my weight, one leg over the other leg, versus it staying in the middle and being able to wind. Okay. When walking, does it feel like your feet do the same thing or different things? Almost 90% of you said the same. Again, not right or wrong, but just something to pay attention to. If you tried it harder examples, which wasn't many of you, which was the most difficult? And we're going to get to this option for everybody coming up in Locomotion 2. Dragon step. So you'll know what that dragon step is shortly. When you go to the, again, Locomotion with hands on ground, the more difficult versions, it is excellently laid out for you in that it gives you an easy version of the movement all the way to the hardest. So that's what I'm relating to is, did you try the hardest levels of each? And 5 people said yes. Okay. Also included in the video, again, attached to the assignment, is I basically start the video at like minute 8. And in that minute 8, it just goes into Locomotion. If you want to do the warm up, what this person designated as a warm up, you simply do the video from the beginning. Okay. And of the people who did it, 9 people did the warm up of the people who watched it. All right. So again, interesting here. When I asked, why did you try the harder challenges? And again, if you quote unquote just did walking, right? And it's interesting to be like just did all of this information I just gave you about walking. A very simple task, but something people don't pay attention to. Like your arms do this. Nobody has said, hey, maybe there's a different way to do that. Just because it's easy doesn't mean you're doing it well. I'll leave that as a pause. So for the people who tried the harder, why? Because they don't like being lazy. They thought walking was laziness. Okay. To see if they could do it. Because it's easy. Because I wanted to challenge myself. Because I was curious. Unfortunately, I didn't have that much space. And again, you will probably need enough space to get on the ground and do a snow angel. I know that that isn't easy to come by for most folks. You can also do it outside, just as a heads up. And I wanted to see the difference between the easy and the harder one. There is a big difference. Got to go back to question for this. So the last two questions have to do with how moving weirdly, moving differently might help you in certain ways. The first is, how might it help you reach your performance and fitness goals? Let's see what you said. Not sure, not sure. Didn't try. Helps you balance and move your body different. I will say this. You will likely burn more calories walking backwards than walking forwards. Why? Because your body's not used to walking backwards, and it's weird and different, and it takes more energy for it to learn stuff. So for the simple caloric value, that if you have to get over there, if you walk backwards, it'll take more calories. So there's that piece of it. But you also have to learn the coordination patterns, how the arms work with the legs. How do I actually get there? How do I shift my weight, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You get more movement in. You're able to try different things. I have straightens different part of the body. You get used to different motions. Again, if I'm coordinated, if I have my hands on the ground, I am loading my hands. By default, by loading my hands, by putting my body weight on them, I'm going to get stronger in my arms. I hope that makes sense. This is why our legs are stronger than our arms, because our legs hold us up all day long and our arms just kind of do nothing. If my arms were to hold me up, I would gain muscle strength in my arms without having to, quote unquote, exercise. The locomotion is the exercise. Okay. I have some people saying maybe a warm up. Different ways to impact your body could help or hinder. Again, you're finding out more information. You're learning to use your body differently. Okay. Last one is time to take, instead of that performance and fitness goal realm, is looking at the stress anxiety realm. Remember, in order to learn something new, I need to be able to pay attention. I'm trying to utilize the stimulation of my brain. So instead of thinking about maybe terrible things or things that are not right with the world or not right with me, I am actually looking at myself and trying to get something right. Trying to figure something out. You guys answered this one well, other than the first three. Keeps your mind busy. Having a rhythm helps you relax. Again, how do I make it easy? That idea, how do I make living easy? Okay, nobody really talks about. I want ease. I don't want to make everything hard. Life can be hard enough for enough of us. You can use it as a way to cope. Interesting. I don't know how learning a locomotion pattern will help me cope with something, but it certainly will distract me from something. And perhaps while I'm doing this thing, I am actually going over my issue in my head. Refreshes your mind, takes things off your mind. Because you can learn to relieve stress in maybe unusual but easy ways. Or because it can be helpful in your situation when you need to do certain actions to get somewhere, this practice also helps you. Find more effective ways. Focus on something else other than stressing. Particularly if I think about this idea of anxiety. Remember, anxiety is like worrying about worrying. So the brain wants to be stimulated. It doesn't have any physical stimulation, so it goes off into its little tirade. If I were to combine the physical and mental stimulation, now my brain has a place to go. And it doesn't find these negative things for me to latch onto. Okay, again, it is about learning, learning, learning. Let me stop the recording real quick.